My answer to the question in the title of this video is probably what you thought it was, which is no. I think it's extremely unlikely that you are too old to not only get good at art or drawing or character design, but too old to make a successful career out of it. And I think this age dilemma is something that we need to re-examine, and in its place, let's ask a different, better question. Hey, this is Brooks with Character Design Forge. Bear with me for just a second because we're going to veer harshly off into analogy territory for just a little bit. In fact, in order to help me illustrate this a little bit better, let's head over to my stack of all-time favorite games for just a second. All right, we need a game. Let me look through my only pile of games here. Really the best of all time, my favorites. Oh, perfect. There we go. Enter Mario Hoops. Chrono Trigger. That's perfect. Hey, there's even a clock in the logo. So don't worry, all of this is still relevant to the title of our video and that question. Chrono Trigger is a great example for our purposes because it's not only a game, but a JRPG, which if you're not familiar with the term, stands for Jang, that's really prolonged hours of gameplay. Now, in order to beat this game, by which I mean reach the end of the story in it, you're going to have to invest about 15 to 20 hours into it, which is a pretty big ask as far as entertainment or media is concerned, especially when you consider that's about the length of 10 movies. Now, if someone ever asked a really ridiculous question, like say, I don't know, am I too old to beat Chrono Trigger? I'd have a number of questions to ask in return. Now, barring things like do you have basic motor functions and reading comprehension, I think the best question that you could ask is are you willing to invest 15 to 20 hours in it? And so this is the question that I want to supplant or replace that am I too old to get good at art or too old to have a career in art question with. And it's this. Do you have about 3 to 7 years that you can be serious, that you can devote some time on a semi-frequent basis to practicing and improving your work? I think the problem is that we're so often presented with someone's final work or final product, their achievements or their success with art, that we don't necessarily realize that this is the culmination and result of a journey. At all times, learning and getting good at art is a journey. Usually the people who are asking this question are doing so out of a little bit of fear and a little bit of uncertainty, and they fall into two separate camps. The first are those who are just daunted by the sheer mass of this. They're not sure they have what it takes to make it through this journey, this long amount of time. And really, if you're serious about it, though, all it takes is a little bit of patience and persistence. And also, a third P, I guess, is perspective. Because if you look at your life as a whole, the amount of years that you have, really taking this small window of a few years, give or take, and using it to perfect and get better at your work, it's really not that long an amount of time. The other camp of people are those who are basically reacting to seeing prodigies or young success stories. And they see someone and go, look at that 18 or 19-year-old or 22-year-old. Look how well they're doing. Look how far behind I am because I'm older than them. And that's such a helpless feeling to have. Yes, these people are able to find some success at a young age, and that's great. But without discrediting their ability or their efforts, they are the equivalent of a lottery winner. Now, how many people participate in lotteries versus the amount of people that win? The majority of people who succeed eventually in their creative career take the slow path. But the thing is, I think generally we tend to celebrate, and on a societal level, those people who seem to have just randomly fallen into something because it's weird. It's like the less that you're supposed to take something seriously and the better it just effortlessly happened, the more glamorous it is. And I think that's really dangerous to sort of frame as the only way to get any success. And you may not have thought of it before, it may seem like some first world problems, but those people are faced with their own set of problems. Maybe they got to where they are effortlessly, and so they didn't quite develop the same learning ethic. And so where do they go from here? They're good where they're at, but how do they improve and go further? Maybe they achieve some success, they've got their own franchise or whatever by the age of 25, and the position they're put in is, where do I go from here? There's no rungs left above them on the ladder, and instead they're looking down and seeing how far they could fall, how much of a sophomore slump they could have, how much they could let people down after their initial success. And so, I don't know, I think if you're on the journey yourself, wouldn't you rather have a rung above you to keep grasping at. You know, there's an interview that Chris Oatley did a while back with an artist named Chris Campbell, who his story is that he immediately after finishing art school landed a job at Riot Games, which is like giant art industry job, no laughing matter. And that's an interesting hook. But the thing is that Chris Campbell was a writer. He was trying to develop a creative writing career up until age 27, and he'd only really drawn middlingly in his childhood. And so at 27, he goes into art school, and 3 years later gets this job at Riot Games. So you could look at this from two different directions. You could go, wow, he landed this big job right out of art school. Or you could think, by the age of 30, after developing his creative work, he landed a job that naturally flowed from that life experience and that level of maturity that he was at age 30. I like this example from a few different standpoints. It's been a while since I listened to the interview, but I'm pretty sure he was 27 before he started drawing, picked up a pencil and started drawing again. So if age and a number is so important to you, you can look at that from that standpoint. I know a lot of people think that might be really old. Some people watching, it might seem pretty young. But the other thing too is that he was at this point a 30-year-old man who had gone through life up until that point with a relative amount of maturity and life experience. And art is one of these interesting things that can be built on from completely unrelated experiences and careers. Art is something that there's something to be said about it being told and stories being told from your standpoint. And the older you get, the wiser and better you get at defining that circumstance. And art is something that feeds on pain and difficulty and suffering and things like that. So if your work involves an assembly line or hauling rocks or digging ditches, that all feeds into art. It's all pretty relative. If I gave you a cheat code to skip to the end of Chrono Trigger or a link to a walkthrough on YouTube where someone had posted the ending, would it be as satisfying of an experience as if you had put your own time and effort into getting there yourself? Because such a cheat code, disclaimer, doesn't exist for art, but I think there are a lot of people looking for it and not realizing that it's all about that journey and getting there yourself. It might take you a year because you're a prodigy. It might take you 7 or 10 years. And even beyond that point, artists always continue to improve. The good ones do anyway, because it's a lifelong thing. I'm going to put a negative comment on blast here because it's relevant to this idea of, am I good enough? It's taking too long. As is the nature of YouTube, there's plenty of negative comments sometimes, most of them silly or pedantic, sometimes valid. This one was really different though, which is why I'm bringing it up. A guy had said that he had had a lot of difficulty learning to draw. It wasn't coming easy to him. Now, he didn't provide details like how old he was, how long he had really taken this seriously. But he said recently he had gotten the results of an IQ test. And whatever data point was in it said that he had poor visual cognition or visual ability of some sort. Now, in response to that, I said, that really stinks that you've been having difficulty. But on the other hand, forget the test. Like, all the test is going to give you is an excuse to quit if you're looking for it. Now, his response to that was kind of heartbreaking. He said, it's irresponsible of me to have believed in him. Now, come after me all you want. I got thick skin, but come after yourselves? I don't think it's irresponsible to believe in someone who's taking it seriously. If it takes a really long amount of time, if this is what matters to you, who cares how long it takes? That's it for me today. I'm making new videos every week on Character Design Forge. A couple things you can do. First of all, you can subscribe to this channel if you haven't already to let you know when new videos are made available. Second thing is you can follow me on Instagram at BagelDenizen. Hey, I'm someone who's making art too, and I'm only 25 and I'm just getting started. I have a long ways to go. So you can see the journey there on Instagram. If you scroll back far enough, you can definitely see some evidence of that journey. Right now, I am doing these creature illustration photo hybrids, starring some people that I care about, and that is a very important project to me, so head over and check it out if you haven't already. If you are serious about character design, my course Learn Character Design is over 10 hours of video learning. It's a comprehensive character design curriculum, and if you want to financially support these videos and you want to see more of them, if you want me to have a chair that isn't like actively falling apart every time I sit in it, you can go over to patreon.com/BagelDenizen. You get a lot of things in return. Patron exclusive videos, lesson booster packs, which are like tangible, downloadable versions of these videos in like PDF form, downloadable high-res versions of my art files, and new episodes of our show Character Select, which is like a fun little podcast where we make a video game character up on the spot. You get early access to episodes of those a week early. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and have fun creating, and don't stop creating. And that's not irresponsible of me to say. Take care, guys.